The sizzle of onions on the grill had been the soundtrack to his life for 30 years. But in his dreams, Miguel Manny Castillo still heard the precise orchestration of a Michelin-starred kitchen, the symphony of searing pans, the rhythm of knife work, the hushed intensity of chefs creating culinary art. Manny, 68, sat in the third row of the Tonight Show studio, his chef's instincts automatically noting the quality of ingredients in his mind, while his weathered hands moved in unconscious chopping motions on his lap. The small Manny's mobile kitchen, best street food in Queens, pin on his clean button-down shirt, caught the studio lights as he shifted in his seat. To the thousands of office workers, construction crews, and hungry New Yorkers who had eaten at his food truck over 3 decades, Manny was just another hard-working immigrant who somehow made the best tacos and sandwiches in the 5 boroughs. What they didn't know was that they were being fed by a man who had once cooked for presidents, celebrities, and food critics at some of the world's most exclusive restaurants. What Manny didn't know was that his story had been quietly circulating among food bloggers and culinary school students who had begun to notice that the simple street food from his truck displayed techniques and flavor combinations that suggested classical French training and molecular gastronomy expertise. Someone had posted a video of Manny preparing what looked like a basic chicken taco, but using knife skills and plating techniques that belonged in a 5-star restaurant. Manny's story had begun with culinary dreams as ambitious as the finest restaurants in Paris. Born in El Salvador to a family of farmers, he had shown an instinctive understanding of flavors and ingredients from childhood, helping his grandmother create elaborate meals from simple ingredients. When his family immigrated to New York when he was 17, Manny's talent had earned him a scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America, where he'd studied under master chefs and graduated at the top of his class. The training had been intensive and transformative. Manny had learned classical French techniques, molecular gastronomy, wine pairing, and the business side of fine dining that turned raw ingredients into artistic experiences. His externship at Le Bernardin had been so impressive that Chef Eric Ripert had personally offered him a position in the kitchen. By 1985, Manny was working as a sous chef at Daniel, one of New York's most prestigious restaurants, creating dishes for food critics and celebrities while earning recognition as one of the most promising young chefs in the city. But the restaurant world had proven demanding beyond his expectations. The 18-hour days, the intense pressure, the physical toll of working in professional kitchens had been sustainable when Manny was young and single. But when he married Carmen in 1990 and they had their first child, Manny had faced an impossible choice: continue pursuing culinary stardom while missing his family's life, or find a way to cook that allowed him to be present for the people he loved. The food truck had been purchased with savings and a small business loan as a way to use his culinary training while maintaining family balance. Manny had planned to operate the truck temporarily while seeking head chef positions that offered better work-life balance. But 30 years later, he discovered something unexpected. Bringing restaurant-quality food to working people who couldn't afford fine dining had given him more satisfaction than any Michelin star ever could. Over 3 decades, Manny had quietly revolutionized street food, applying classical techniques to simple ingredients and creating flavor combinations that made customers return daily for what they thought were just really good tacos and sandwiches. His basic chicken featured sous vide preparation and house-made marinades. His simple salsas incorporated molecular gastronomy techniques that intensified flavors. His sandwiches used bread he baked himself in proteins he prepared with the precision of a 5-star kitchen. The Tonight Show tickets had been a retirement gift from his regular customers. Manny was finally closing the food truck next month after 30 years, and the construction workers, office employees, and neighborhood families who had eaten his food for decades had pooled their money for one special night to honor the man who had fed them better than they'd ever realized. It was a Thursday night taping in May, and Jimmy was in good spirits after interviewing a celebrity chef about his new cookbook. During his commercial break interaction with the audience, his attention was drawn to Manny by the precise way he was examining the studio's catering setup and the obvious expertise with which he was mentally critiquing food preparation he could observe from his seat. "Sir, you look like someone who knows food. Are you in the restaurant business?" Manny straightened with the automatic professionalism of someone who had spent decades in food service. Food truck owner, sir. Manny's mobile kitchen in Queens. Been serving street food for 30 years, retiring next month. A warm murmur went through the nearby audience members. Food trucks were beloved parts of New York's culinary landscape, and 30 years of feeding the community deserved recognition. 30 years running a food truck? You must have some incredible recipes. What's your specialty? Manny's face lit up with genuine pride. Everything, really. Tacos, sandwiches, daily specials. I try to make food that tastes like home. Comforting, satisfying, made with love. Good ingredients prepared properly, nothing fancy. Nothing fancy? Something tells me you're being modest. What makes your food special? Well, I believe every meal should be the best meal someone has that day, even if they're eating from a truck on their lunch break. So I take care with the preparation, use quality ingredients, try to create flavors that surprise people in good ways. Jimmy noticed something in Manny's language, a sophisticated understanding of flavor and technique that went beyond typical food truck knowledge. The way he talked about creating flavors suggested formal training. Manny, you seem to really understand cooking on a deeper level. Have you always worked in food trucks? Manny paused as if deciding how much of his background to reveal. Actually, I studied at the Culinary Institute of America. Worked in restaurants before I started the truck. Fine dining, classical training. The casual mention of the CIA and fine dining caught the audience's attention. The Culinary Institute of America was one of the most prestigious culinary schools in the world. The Culinary Institute? Manny, that's serious culinary training. What kind of restaurants did you work in? Some of the best in New York. Bernardin, Daniel, a few others. I was a sous chef, worked with some incredible chefs, learned classical French techniques, modern presentation. Jimmy's curiosity was immediately piqued. Bernardin and Daniel were legendary restaurants, and someone with that background running a food truck suggested a story worth exploring. Jimmy made a decision that would change everything. Manny, those are Michelin-starred restaurants. Would you mind coming down here and telling us about your culinary background? Manny looked uncertain. Oh, I don't think people want to hear about old kitchen stories. That was a different life. Trust me, I think they do. Come on down. As Manny made his way to the stage with the measured steps of someone who had spent decades navigating busy kitchens, his bearing began to change. The confident presence of a chef who had once commanded professional kitchens and created dishes for the most discerning palates. When he reached the stage, Jimmy guided him to a comfortable chair. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy announced, this is Manny Castillo. For 30 years, he's been serving street food from his truck in Queens, but apparently there's much more to his culinary story. Manny, tell us about your restaurant training. Manny settled into the chair, and when he spoke about cooking, his voice took on the authority of someone who had mastered his craft at the highest levels. I graduated from the Culinary Institute in 1983, trained in classical French techniques, modern cuisine, wine pairing. I wanted to create beautiful food that could transport people, make them feel something beyond just satisfaction. The audience was quiet, processing this unexpected revelation. CIA graduates typically went on to run prestigious restaurants, not food trucks. What was it like working in those famous restaurants? Manny's eyes lit up with memories of his culinary prime. Incredible and demanding. Working under Chef Rippert at Le Bernardin taught me that every detail matters. The temperature of a sauce, the angle of a garnish, the timing of service. At Daniel, I learned that food is theater, that every plate tells a story. You worked directly with Eric Rippert and Daniel Boulud? Yes, they were my mentors. Chef Rippert taught me about precision and respect for ingredients. Chef Boulud showed me how classical techniques could be adapted for modern tastes. They're both artists who happen to work with food. The studio was mesmerized by Manny's insider knowledge of legendary chefs and prestigious kitchens. What happened? Why did you leave that world for a food truck? Manny's expression grew more reflective. I became a father. Restaurant kitchens demand everything. Your time, your energy, your life. I was working 18-hour days, missing bedtime stories, family dinners, my children's childhood. I had to choose between culinary fame and being present for my family. So the food truck was a compromise? It was a solution. I could still cook, still create, still use my training to make people happy through food. But I could also be home for dinner, coach my son's soccer team, help with homework. Jimmy leaned forward. But you didn't abandon your culinary skills, did you? Manny smiled for the first time since taking the stage. You can't unlearn good technique. So my street food became, well, maybe more sophisticated than typical food truck offerings. Jimmy reached behind his chair and pulled out a tablet loaded with food blog reviews. Manny, we found some reviews of your truck online. He began reading. From the Queen's food blog, Manny's mobile kitchen serves what appears to be simple street food, but closer inspection reveals sophisticated techniques that belong in fine dining. His chicken is clearly sous vide, his salsas show molecular gastronomy influence, and his flavor combinations demonstrate classical French training. Manny looked surprised. Someone wrote that? They did. Listen to this from a Michelin Guide food writer. I stumbled upon Manny's truck expecting typical food truck fare and instead experienced some of the most expertly prepared food I've had anywhere in New York. This chef is wasting his talent on street corners when he should be running a Michelin-starred kitchen. The studio fell completely silent. The audience was processing the fact that Michelin-level cuisine had been served from a Queen's food truck for 30 years. Manny, you've been cooking Michelin-quality food from a truck? I just cook the way I was trained to cook. Good ingredients, proper technique, attention to detail. Whether it's a $200 tasting menu or an $8 sandwich, food deserves to be prepared with care. Jimmy stood and addressed the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, this man has spent 30 years bringing world-class culinary expertise to working people who needed good food at affordable prices. He's been secretly operating one of New York's best restaurants on wheels. He turned back to Manny. The culinary community wants to honor you. The James Beard Foundation wants to give you their Outstanding Chef Award for your contribution to American food culture. Manny's eyes filled with tears. James Beard Foundation? For a food truck? For 30 years of proving that great cooking isn't about prestige or prices, it's about skill, passion, and caring about the people you feed. Jimmy had one more surprise. Manny, several celebrity chefs want to collaborate with you on a cookbook featuring your recipes. They want to show the world how classical techniques can elevate simple ingredients. A cookbook? With my food truck recipes? Your Michelin-level food truck recipes, Jimmy corrected. Because Manny, what you've created isn't just street food, it's accessible fine dining. You've democratized excellent cuisine. Jimmy gestured to the production crew. We have a surprise for you. Our kitchen prepared some ingredients, and we'd love to see you demonstrate your technique. A mobile cooking station was wheeled onto the stage, complete with fresh ingredients and professional equipment. Manny's entire demeanor changed as he approached the setup. Suddenly, he was back in his element, the master chef he'd always been. I'll show you a simple chicken taco the way I prepare it, Manny said, his hands moving with the precision and confidence of decades of training. What followed was a masterclass in culinary technique. Manny quickly demonstrated how he prepared his chicken using sous vide principles adapted for food truck equipment, created a complex salsa that incorporated molecular gastronomy techniques, and assembled the taco with the plating precision of fine dining. The result looked like a simple taco, but the studio audience could smell the incredible aromas and see the sophisticated technique behind what appeared to be street food. This is what I've been doing for 30 years, Manny explained, taking everything I learned in the world's best kitchens and making it accessible to construction workers, office employees, families who deserve to eat well. The audience erupted in sustained applause, understanding they had witnessed true culinary artistry applied to everyday food. Manny, Jimmy said, you've spent 30 years proving that great cooking isn't about exclusivity, it's about excellence. You've shown that a master chef's highest calling might not be earning Michelin stars, but feeding people who need both nourishment and joy. As they helped Manny back to his seat, he stopped and looked out at the audience one more time. Thank you, but I want young chefs to know, success isn't measured by awards or recognition. It's measured by the satisfaction you bring to people's lives. Whether you're cooking for presidents or construction workers, Your job is to make people happy through food. The episode that aired became one of the most inspiring Tonight Show segments of the year, sparking conversations about the value of bringing excellence to everyday experiences and the chefs who choose community over celebrity. Manny's story inspired several culinary schools to create programs focused on accessible fine dining, and his cookbook became a bestseller that taught home cooks how to apply professional techniques to simple ingredients. The Manny Castillo Foundation was established to provide culinary scholarships for students committed to community-focused cooking careers. Manny spent his retirement teaching cooking classes and consulting for restaurants interested in elevating comfort food. Discovering that leaving the food truck didn't mean leaving his calling, it meant sharing his expertise to help other chefs understand that the highest form of culinary art is making excellent food accessible to everyone. At 70, Manny still cooks daily for family and friends, still believes that every meal should be prepared with love and skill, and still carries his CIA graduation pin alongside his food truck permit. A reminder that true culinary success isn't about where you cook, but how much care you bring to feeding people. Because sometimes the most important restaurants aren't the ones with Michelin stars and celebrity chefs, but the humble food trucks where masters of their craft choose to serve excellence to people who need both good food and proof that someone cares enough to cook it perfectly, one order at a time.